Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of our Spotlight series. Today, we're giving away an Envision starter project and exploring how architects can move beyond still images to create more immersive presentations. And to discuss that with me, again, we have Farhan. Farhan, a lot of people, a lot of architects still use still renders, right? And do you think they're missing out on opportunities when they don't use animations or even interactive presentations?
Um, I think like as an architect myself as well, we could create a lot of great static images and express in these images what a design could look and feel like. But I think there's this emotional connectivity with the space that the customer or the client wants to see. For example, I'm in my living room and I want to go to the kitchen. So I could have these two images where one render is showcasing the living space, the other is showcasing the kitchen, but I still don't know how it feels or what the spatial experience could look like walking from my living space up till that kitchen space. And I think that's something that cannot be, fully shown or expressed in these two still renders, and that's something that could miss out in still images.
Yeah, totally. But again, doing animation is not easily done, right? It's not something that you can just say, okay, let's do an animation out of this.
Mhm.
And especially if you're inside of Revit or ArchiCAD or whatever, and even if you're using Enscape, so
Mhm.
it would make sense to use a proper tool for that. And that's where Envision comes in, right? So, like,
Mhm.
let's say I'm working in Enscape in my project. How can I continue that project using Envision? How does that workflow look like?
It's actually very well connected, and that's also the reason I personally like it as well. So how it works is that when you add all these entourage elements or create your scene and try to tell a story through Enscape visuals like static renders, and you want to go for animation, you basically open your project directly inside of Envision. What I mean to say is you open your Enscape project, how you left it inside Enscape at that very moment. You could open it exactly like that in Envision without having to think of some sort of translation of the geometry, some missing textures, some missing assets. Everything that you see inside of Enscape is exactly visible in that very state inside of Envision. So the emphasis or the creative part for the architect or the designer or the storyteller is to sort of use that state of the project and create that animation or focus on the animation aspect only. So that's one part, and the second part is that you have so many options inside of Envision to use those static assets, for example people, and quickly replace them with 4D characters, so moving people, moving cars, and things like this. So it really helps you not lose how you position these assets within your different views, and then you could simply just continue from there and add more you know and make your stills more impactful by quickly changing them into animations.
And does it take any, like, do I have to prepare my scene? Because again, as an architect, I don't usually have time for,
Mhm.
reworking a scene or whatever. Like, I just want to get things done.
Mhm.
Is there any reworking involved here?
Not really. So when I'm talking to different architects or designers, something I really try to explain to them is that the reason why architects like Enscape is because it's really quick and easy for them to use, and it's specifically designed for architects. So you don't necessarily have to be an ArcViz or a visualizer to use Enscape, right? Or to create good quality images through Enscape. And similar to that, Envision is also designed for architects or designers themselves. So you don't have to be necessarily be an animator to be able to use Envision. So it has also a similar interface, and the way it's designed is that you have a seamless transition from Enscape to Envision as an Enscape user as well. And secondly, I think in terms of just using it, um, I try to always emphasize you don't have to create or find a specific project for this. Since it's working with all Enscape projects, if you're already using something in Revit, SketchUp, whichever CAD application you're using with Enscape, you just use the same project, you bring it to Envision, and then you just start animating. And then it's right there and then. So it's that instant for you to start animating. So yeah, I would say whatever project you are at the moment, just open it up in Envision and see what opportunities you have to start.
That's actually very cool. But let's say I have a like a huge project, like I'm
Hmm.
talking about a master plan or whatever, with
Hmm.
a lot of buildings or even a very complicated one, complex one. Is Envision up to that task?
So Envision can handle really, really large scene if it's definitely a different render engine than Enscape itself. And one of the cool things that I really like about Envision is that it basically works with a VR scene format. That's a VR scene format. And what that means is that, first of all, it could handle large scenes. And secondly, if I have my main building, for example, inside of Revit, and I have some part of the project, let's say the context inside of SketchUp, I could really bring those from these two different sources directly inside of Envision and then start working on it. Also, the VRSync type is compatible with DCC applications. That means if I'm using, like, I don't know, if my I have a big firm, I have a separate archivist department, and these guys are working with DCC tools. They can also export a scene from there, and then I could also combine it with a scene from a CAD application and bring them together inside of Envision. So it's really powerful in terms of firstly bringing things together from different sources, and then secondly, of course, handling large scenes.
So what you're saying is that basically, if I'm in a studio and we are using Revit and Enscape, but we do have a 3D team using, let's say, 3ds Max and
Mhm.
V-Ray or Corona, we can talk. That's basically what you're
Yes,
saying.
exactly. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
And that's very, very cool, actually. Coming from a large firm, it's actually pretty cool because there's no like, you don't have to redo things. You can take
Yeah,
whatever the architect
it's
did and you can insert in your scene and vice versa. And then that creates a whole new pipeline if you think about it.
Yeah, because I know that even me myself, in the past, I had to use many different tools just to sort of translate the geometry from one application to the other. But now, with this, it really changes. And I know people who are trying to constantly go back and forth with different applications because that's the workflow they have. And this really changes everything because then you don't have these issues over and over again. And I think one more thing I would like to point out, which maybe most of the people don't know, but um, I've been asked a lot of times that once you bring a project inside of Envision, and something changes in your actual project, of course you can export a new scene and replace it with the source file. But Envision gives you the functionality of having multiple version paths. That means if you have different changes throughout the design process, you could link all of those different options for the design directly in a single file and then switch from one option to the other. Maybe it was a past option, maybe it was something that you discussed with the client later, but you can switch from these different design options directly in a single file and the animation will still be in place. I think that is also very powerful to switch from different design options and showcase quickly to the customer what they like. Because customers or clients really like to move between different options that they had discussed, even going really, really back to a very old design option. So I think that's really, really powerful in showcasing and keeping the animation intact.
Yeah, allowing your client to change their mind,
Yes. Yes.
but without breaking your work is something that is actually pretty powerful. Really.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure everyone can relate to that. So that was so cool. Thank you again, Farhan, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one.
See you. Bye.